The man arrested for the New Year's Eve murder of his mother in White Oak is now booked into the Gregg County Jail with 2 additional charges. The Gregg County Sheriff's deputies responded to the scene just north of White Oak, finding 58-year-old Renee Keys outside the home with several stab wounds. Keys was quickly taken to the hospital where she was pronounced dead.
New Year's Eve 2025. While everybody's getting ready to pop champagne and count down to midnight, 58-year-old Penny Keys is bleeding out in her own front yard. Multiple stab wounds. And the person who put them there? Her own son. Let me tell you something. This is the kind of story that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about family. When the clock strikes midnight, the truth comes out. I'm 12 a.m. crime, and every single day I bring you real cases of domestic violence that turn deadly. The stories the system tried to bury, the victims who deserve justice. If you're about that raw, unfiltered truth, hit subscribe. New case drops every day at midnight. Don't sleep on justice. This is 12 a.m. crime. Penny Renee Keys was the kind of woman people gravitated toward. You know the type. Walks into a room and suddenly everything feels lighter. She lived in White Oak, Texas, a small community in Gregg County where everybody knows everybody. And girl, everybody knew Penny. Her friend Stephanie Fussell described her as a ray of light. Always positive, always smiling. The kind of person who tried to see the good in everybody. Penny wasn't just friendly, she was genuine about it. Kind, humble, the real deal. She loved hard too. Her husband Mike, she adored that man. Her sister Cynthia was more than family. They were best friends, practically inseparable. Stephanie said every time she saw Penny, Cynthia was right there with her. That's the kind of bond we're talking about. Sisters who chose each other every single day. Penny had hobbies, had a life outside the house. She was a big Lobos fan, never missed a game if she could help it. She'd go on ladies' weekends with her friends, trips to Shreveport, making memories, and living her best life. At 58, she wasn't slowing down. She was enjoying herself, surrounded by people who loved her. But here's the thing about Penny that really defined her. She loved her family dearly. Her friends knew it. The community knew it. And that love extended to her children, including her son, Zachary. Now, Zachary Keys. We need to talk about him because this is where things start getting complicated. On November 15th, 2024, just about 6 weeks before his mother's death, Zachary had a run-in with the law. White Oak police arrested him the next day, November 16th, on 2 charges, driving while intoxicated and evading arrest. Think about that for a second. Evading arrest means he didn't just get pulled over for a DWI. He ran. He tried to get away. That's a whole different level of behavior, and it tells you something about his state of mind at the time. The court system was already in motion. Records show he had an open plea scheduled for January 16, 2026, just a couple weeks away from New Year's Eve. He was supposed to stand in front of a judge and deal with the evading charge. The DWI case was still pending, no court dates set yet. So here's where we are in November, December of 2024. Zachary's got legal troubles hanging over his head. Charges that could mean serious time. And we don't know what else was going on in his life. What was happening in that house on Jamerison Road. What conversations were being had. What kind of pressure he was under. What we do know is this. Penny was the type of mother who saw the good in people. She loved her family fiercely. And if her son was struggling, you can bet she was trying to help him. That's just who she was. But love doesn't always protect you. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who can hurt you the most. The weeks between Zachary's arrest and New Year's Eve are a mystery. We don't have the details of what happened in that house, What words were exchanged, what tensions were building. Maybe there were arguments. Maybe there were moments of peace. Maybe Penny was trying to get her son help, trying to guide him through his legal troubles like mothers do. What we do know is that by the time December 31st rolled around, something had reached a breaking point. December 31st, 2025, New Year's Eve. Most of White Oak was getting ready to celebrate. Families planning their evening, friends making plans, the whole town looking forward to a fresh start with the new year. At the Keys home on Jamerison Road, something else was happening entirely. Shortly before 4 p.m., still broad daylight, Gregg County Sheriff's deputies got a call. A homicide. They responded immediately, racing to the scene in White Oak. When they arrived, they found Penny Keys outside her home. Multiple stab wounds. She was still alive, but barely. The deputies knew they had to move fast. They rushed her to a local hospital, but it was already too late. Penny Renee Keys was pronounced dead from her injuries. The wounds were too severe. There was nothing anyone could do. Think about that timeline. 4 p.m. on New Year's Eve, while people are out shopping for party supplies, getting their hair done, planning their countdown, celebrations. Penny was fighting for her life in her own front yard. The scene outside that home on Jamerison Road must have been chaos. Neighbors coming out, trying to understand what happened. Deputies securing the area, trying to piece together what went down. And somewhere in all of that, the question everyone was asking: who did this? Investigators didn't have to look far for an answer. They spoke with Penny's family, the people who knew her best, who knew who'd been in that house, who might have had access, and the family pointed them in one direction: her son, Zachary Keys. Now, we don't know exactly what the family told investigators. We don't know if they saw something, heard something, or if they just knew in their gut that something was wrong with Zachary that day. But their information was solid enough for law enforcement to act on it immediately. A murder warrant was issued for Zachary's arrest. The manhunt was on. But here's the thing. Zachary wasn't at the house anymore. He'd left the scene, and that meant deputies had to track him down before he got too far or did something else. The search didn't take long. Zachary was located in Panola County, the neighboring county, just east of Gregg County. Whether he was trying to run or just didn't know where else to go, we can't say. But when deputies found him, he didn't fight. He was taken into custody without incident. No chase, no standoff. He just went with them. Zachary was initially booked into the Panola County Jail, but that was just temporary. He was quickly transferred back to Gregg County to face the music. The murder charge was the big one, but deputies also hit him with 2 additional charges: evading arrest and theft. Those extra charges tell us there might have been more to this situation than just the stabbing itself. Maybe he took something from the scene. Maybe he tried to run from deputies when they first approached. The details haven't been made public, but those charges don't just appear out of nowhere. Zachary Keys was now sitting in the Gregg County Jail with a bond set at $1.1 million. For a small-town case, that's a hefty number. It tells you how serious this was, how much of a flight risk he was considered to be. The Gregg County Sheriff's Office released a statement thanking the Panola County Sheriff's Office for their cooperation in securing Zachary's arrest. They also said the investigation was ongoing and no other information would be released at that time. But then they said something that hit different. This is an extremely sad and very unfortunate situation during this holiday season. Our hearts and prayers go out to the Keys family and the White Oak community for their loss. Even law enforcement recognized this wasn't just another case. This was a family destroyed. a community grieving, a mother gone at the hands of her own child.
Let's begin with some new details. The man arrested for the New Year's Eve murder of his own mother in White Oak is now booked into the Gregg County Jail with 2 additional charges. Gregg County Sheriff's deputies responded to that scene just north of White Oak, where they found 58-year-old Renee Keys outside the home with several stab wounds. Keys was quickly taken to the hospital where she was pronounced dead. But today we learned deputies, they identified the victim's son, Zachary Keys, as the main suspect. Zachary was found and arrested without incident in Panola County. He was then transferred from the Panola County Jail back to Gregg County. And on top of a murder charge, he faces 2 additional charges of evading arrest and theft. According to jail records, Zachary is now being held on a $1,100,000 bond for murder and theft. He's also being held without bond for evading arrest.
So now we've got Zachary in custody, charged with his mother's murder. But the investigation? That was just getting started. Deputies had the suspect, they had the victim, they had the scene. But what they needed was the why. What happened inside that house on Jamerison Road that led to a son stabbing his mother to death on New Year's Eve? The Gregg County Sheriff's Office made it clear they weren't releasing details. The investigation was ongoing. And in a case like this, family violence, small community, everyone knowing everyone, they had to be careful, not just for the integrity of the case, but for the family that was left behind, trying to make sense of it all. Here's what we know for certain. Penny died from multiple stab wounds. That's not a single moment of rage. That's sustained violence. That's someone stabbing again and again. And that tells investigators something about the state of mind of the person who did it. But here's what we don't know. And probably never will unless it comes out in court. What was said before the first blow? What was the argument about? Was there even an argument? Or did this come out of nowhere? The timing bothers me too. 4 in the afternoon. That's not the middle of the night when emotions are running high and everyone's exhausted. That's the middle of the day. That's deliberate in a way that makes this even more disturbing. And the location, outside the home. How did they end up outside? Was Penny trying to leave? Was she trying to get away? Or did the violence start inside and spill out into the yard where the deputies eventually found her? These are the questions investigators were working through while Zachary sat in that jail cell. One thing that couldn't be ignored, Zachary's recent arrest history. That November incident with the DWI and evading arrest, that's fresh. That's recent stress, recent legal trouble, recent consequences bearing down on him. Investigators would have looked at that timeline closely. Was there a connection between his legal troubles and what happened on New Year's Eve? We don't have those answers. What we do have is a family torn apart and a community trying to process the unthinkable. So what do we take away from this? What's the lesson here? Penny Keys spent her whole life being a good person, kind, loving, the type who saw the best in everyone. She built a life filled with people who adored her, a husband, a sister who was her best friend, friends who treasured their time with her. And on the last day of 2025, all of that was taken away. Not by a stranger, not by some random act of violence, but by her own son. That's the part that haunts me about this case. The person she probably loved most in this world, the child she raised, the human being she brought into existence. He's the one who ended her life. Family violence is real. And it doesn't always look like what you think it does. It's not always the drunk husband beating his wife, though that happens too. Sometimes it's a son who's struggling, who's made bad choices, who's facing consequences he can't handle. And when that pressure builds, sometimes the people closest to them pay the price. We don't know if Penny saw this coming. We don't know if there were warning signs that got ignored or explained away. What we do know is that by the time deputies got that call on New Year's Eve, it was already too late to save her. The White Oak community lost someone special that day. Mike lost his wife. Cynthia lost her sister. Penny's friends lost someone who made their lives brighter just by being in it. And Zachary? He's sitting in a jail cell, facing the reality that he murdered his own mother. Whatever demons he was fighting, whatever led him to that moment, none of it was worth what he did. None of it justifies taking a knife to the woman who gave him life. This case is still developing. Zachary's still awaiting trial. The investigation is still ongoing. But one thing's for certain. The Keys family will never be the same. New Year's Eve will never be the same for them. While the rest of us were counting down to midnight, toasting to new beginnings, they were saying goodbye to someone they'll never get back. That's the reality of cases like this. There are no winners, just loss and grief and questions that might never have answers. Rest in peace, Renee Keys. You deserved so much better. That's it for this one. If this story hit you, drop a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're new here, subscribe and turn on notifications. We've got more cases coming your way. If you or someone you know is dealing with domestic violence, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. Available 24/7. Stay safe out there. This is 12 a.m. Crime. Peace.